So I've been thinking a lot lately about my tone and how to get the best tone out of my guitar that I possibly can. And I live in Minnesota, and it's the middle of the winter. Actually, we're getting towards the end of winter now, but we had just a brutally cold winter, and it was below zero for weeks and months at a time. It seemed like, and taking this thing out into sub-zero temperatures and all that dry air, it takes its toll on this guitar. I mean, this is a living, breathing thing. The guitar, it's glued together. It's held together with tension. It's not. It expands and contracts. It's not a static thing. It needs. It breathes. It takes on the moisture in the air or the lack of the moisture in the air, and it takes its toll on these guitars. It really does. And so if you're struggling with tone, like a lot of people do, even the greatest players out there struggle with tone. When Tony Rice got his Martin back in the 70s, it was literally unplayable. I mean, the thing has been through hell and back, and it's, he says that it sounds better than it ever has. After all that abuse and all the years of wear and tear and, being submerged in a flood and everything else. So the first thing to getting good tone, in my mind, is having a decent guitar. I mean, you need to have a guitar that's well built. You need to have something that comes from a reputable company, a company that's known for making quality instruments, and just invest in a quality instrument, and it'll pay off in the long run. So that's that's the first thing to getting good tone right there, is just having a decent guitar that's well built. It needs to be able to hold up to the abuse. It needs to be able to hold up to the weather. So that's really important. And if you have a nice guitar, like specifically a Martin, for example, this is my Martin, the D28. I love this guitar. It's also highly serviceable. So you find a good luthier in your hometown. There's almost anywhere you live, there's probably a guy who can work on your guitar. Ask around, ask your musician buddies, or look for reviews. But just find somebody that that knows what they're doing, that really specializes in this case, acoustic guitars. There's a guy here locally in Minneapolis who works specifically on Martins, and he works on everybody's instruments. And all of my musician buddies bring their guitars and their banjos and their mandolins to him. That's step one. Get a decent instrument. Step two, once you get that decent instrument, or a really, really nice instrument, so a Martin, a Taylor, something like that, take care of it. Humidify it. Every single guitar is going to react to its environment differently. So if you live in Florida, you probably don't need to do anything. You just leave it in the case and put it in the closet or in the back bedroom or whatever, and it's probably fine. You don't need to do much because it's very humid down there, and the guitars like humidity. Just like anything made out of wood, it doesn't dry out as quickly, and the wood doesn't shrink and pull apart from the connections and everything like that. So if you live in a place, if you're not fortunate enough to live in Florida, for example, if you live in a place like I do in the snowy north, in Minnesota, where it gets dry as hell and it snows all the time, and you really need to take care of your instrument, so you need to humidify it. So I have a humidifier in here that I leave on all the time. When I'm not around, I keep all my guitars down here, and I keep it at about 45 to 50% humidity. I have a humidity sensor that tells me what the humidity is, and I just keep that thing running. If you're having tonality issues, those are the things you got to start looking at. You got to look at, having a decent instrument right off the bat. If you have a decent instrument and you're having tonality issues, take it to someone who knows what they're doing. They'll do a setup on it. So they go in here, they go underneath here, and they adjust the truss rod very slightly, which can slightly raise the action or lower the action depending on what you need. And in my case, I need to set up on this thing right now before the summer, before this all the touring starts in the summer. So I need to take it in, get it set up, because I'm already starting to notice there's some string buzzing going on right there. And that's just, I assume that's just from the brutal winter, just taking its toll on this instrument. So that's the main thing right there is quality. You want to have a quality instrument. You want to have somebody work on it, maintain it from time to time. Every guitar needs a setup at some point, whether it's a crappy guitar or a really, really nice guitar. They all need to be set up at some point. And take care of it yourself. You know, put it in a humidified room if you live in a cold, dry environment like I do. You know, just be aware of those things. You want to think of your guitar as something that needs maintenance and needs care. It's like your car, you know, especially if you use it a lot, you need to maintain it. Otherwise it's going to break, you know, and it's going to be, then you're not going to have a guitar, and that's no good. So all that aside, how do you get good tone out of your guitar when you're playing it? So for me, good tone is difficult. It's difficult to achieve because when you're on stage, every room is different. You know, every playing situation is different. If you're outside, if you're inside, if your monitor isn't up very loud, you can't really hear yourself, and then you're starting to pick too hard, you know, and you're losing tone that way. So I just wanted to share a couple tips that I've learned over the years about, you know, achieving good tone and having consistently good tone. So if you want to draw good tone out of the guitar, you don't want to be picking too hard. That's the main thing. You don't want to pick too hard, because if you're picking too hard, then the strings are kind of overworked and they start to, you know, they vibrate too much and there's too much action going on and you just don't have good attack and it's not good. So you want to just practice, you know, a nice medium light attack. So you know, every guitar is different and you want to find that level that's good for you, you know. So you want to pick in a way that draws good tone out of the guitar and also is comfortable for you, so it gives you a good attack and it gives you, you know, good playability on the guitar as well. So because those two things are connected, tone and playability. One thing I like to concentrate on in addition to that, in addition to how hard I'm picking, is where I'm picking. So where am I picking on the guitar? I've seen players that like to pick, you know, a little closer to the bridge. To get more of that kind of twangy or trebly kind of a tone. And then, you know, for me, for example, that's one way to do it. But for this guitar, it's very mid-rangey. It's kind of a boomy. It's a little on the boomy side when it's not plugged in. But I like to feel the attack of how I'm picking the guitar. So if you're picking really close to the bridge, the attack is going to be really tight. So when you're picking, there's not a lot of feedback from the string itself. So there's not a lot of bounce back hitting your pick every time you pick it. So I'll just pick some eighth notes, starting with the bridge, and then I'll move down towards the neck, so you can kind of hear how the tone changes as you move towards the neck. For me, the sweet spot, and I think this is true for most guitars and most guitar players, but the sweet spot for me between two trebly on the bridge side and two bassy on the neck side is right in the middle. And it's basically right, if you have the sound hole right here, it's basically right at the back of the sound hole is where you want to be picking. So combination of good tone and good response from the strings too, because you want to feel the response from the strings as you're plucking them. So it gives you that perfect feedback where it's not too much tension but not too loose either.